Hello and welcome to Aviation Abbey. Go where you feel the most alive. Today we'll be talking about some difficult aviation terminologies which you must have come across while going through articles on aviation or while listening to lectures on aviation. We will try to make it easy for you referring to ICAO NX14, that is Aerodrome. So let's get started. The next definition is that of the maneuvering area. The catch is maneuvering area. It is an area on an aerodrome intended for takeoff, landing and taxiing of the aircraft but does not include the aprons. Whereas the movement area is also used for takeoff, landing and taxiing of an aircraft, but this includes the apron. Next, we will be talking about the aircraft classification number. It gives you the relative effect that an aircraft has on the pavement of a given subgrade category. Next, we will be talking about the pavement classification number, which gives the bearing strength of a pavement for unrestricted operations. Next, we will be talking about the apron. It is a defined area on land aerodrome intended for embarkation and disembarkation of passengers, loading and unloading of cargo, mail, and also for the parking of the aircraft. Specifically, the aircraft parking stand is used for parking of the aircraft. Next, we will be talking about arresting system. It is used to decelerate an aircraft in case of overrunning the runway. Runways are divided into two categories: instrument runways and non-instrument runways. Non-instrument runways are the ones in which approaches are made using visual approach procedures, and in instrument runways the approaches are made using the instrument landing procedures. The instrument runways are divided into two further categories, that is precision approach runway and non-precision approach runway. Non-precision approach runway is the runway served with visual as well as non-visual aids intended for landing operations using instrument approach operation type A and a visibility of not less than 1000 meters. The other category, that is precision approach runway, are the runways that are served with visual aids as well as non-visual aids following an instrument approach operation type B and a decision height not less than 60 meters and visibility not less than 800 meters, or a runway visual range not less than 550 meters. Further, the precision approach runway is divided into three categories, that is category 1, category 2 and category 3. Under category 1, the decision height is not less than 60 meters and the visibility is not less than 800 meters with a runway visual range not less than 550 meters. In Cat 2, the decision height is lower than 60 meters but not lower than 30 meters. The RVR is not less than 300 meters and the visibility is not less than 550 meters. The category 3 runways are further divided into three categories, that is category 3A, category 3B and category 3C. In case of category 3A, the decision height is 30 meters or nil and RVR is not less than 175 meters. In case of category 3B, the decision height is lower than 15 meters or nil and the RVR is less than 175 meters but not less than 15 meters. And in case of category 3C, the RVR is 0 or nil and the decision height is also nil. Next, we'll be talking about barrettes. Barrettes are a system of 3 or more aeronautical ground lights placed so close to each other in a transverse line such that they appear as a short bar when seen from a distance. Next, we will be talking about bolt landing. It is a landing maneuver which is abandoned when the aircraft descends below the decision height or obstacle clearance altitude. So for this, we need to understand what decision height is. Decision height is a particular height at which the pilot of an aircraft decides whether to perform a missed approach or continue the landing operation. Now we will understand what are near parallel runways. These are the runways that are not intersecting. and their extended runway center line have an angle of convergence or divergence of 15 degrees or less. Now, if two aircrafts perform simultaneous approaches to parallel or near parallel instrument runways, then if the radar separation minima between these two aircrafts on the extended runway center line is prescribed and is to be maintained, it is called dependent parallel approaches. If this separation is not prescribed and do not have to be maintained, it is called independent parallel approaches. Now we talk about fragile objects on a runway very often. What are these? These are basically the objects having a low mass that are intended to break on impact with the aircraft so that they pose minimum damage to the aircraft. We will be talking about FOD or foreign object debris. These are the inanimate objects, that is, they do not have life but have a capability to pose hazard to aircraft operations when located in the movement area. Next is hazard beacon. It is an aeronautical beacon used to designate hazard to air navigation. There are certain aerodromes where the probability of formation of ice on the aircraft is very high. So in order to melt this ice and prevent ice from forming again, anti-icing elements are used. Now the time for which the formation of ice is prevented on the aircraft is known as the holdover time. Next, we will be talking about hotspots. These are the locations at an aerodrome where there has been a history of collisions and runway incursions. So, at these locations, heightened attention by pilots is to be maintained in order to avoid any collision or runway incursion. Now we'll be talking about intermediate holding position. This is a location at an aerodrome where an aircraft or a vehicle needs to stop and it is made for traffic control purposes. From this location, the aircraft or the vehicle will be moved forward only after receiving permission from aerodrome control tower. Next is identification beacon. It is a beacon that emits coded signals and it is used to designate a particular point on an aerodrome. Next, we will be talking about the landing direction indicator. As the name suggests, it is used to designate visually the direction of takeoff and landing designated at that time. Next are markers. These are objects used to designate an obstacle or a boundary. We will be talking about markers in detail when we discuss about how we designate obstacles to air navigation. Marking are symbols or group of symbols that are displayed on the movement area and they are used to convey aeronautical information. Now we will be talking about obstacles. Obstacles are fixed or mobile objects that are located on the area that are intended for surface movement of the aircraft or extend above those surfaces which are determined for unrestricted aircraft operations or extend above those surfaces and are determined as hazard to air navigation. Now we will be understanding what obstacle-free zone is. It is the airspace bounded by the inner approach surface, the inner transitional surface and the bulk landing surface and the area of the strip bounded by this surface which is not penetrated by any fixed object or any other object of low mass or frangible object. What is outer main gear wheel span or OMWGS? It is the distance between the outer edges of the main gear landing wheels. Now we will be talking about RESA or the runway end safety area. It is a symmetrical area about the extended runway central line that is located near to the or adjacent to the runway strip and is used to reduce the risk of damage to an aircraft in case of overrun or undershoot. Now we are going to talk about runway guard lights. These are a system of lights used to caution pilot that they are about to enter an active runway. Now we'll be talking about the runway holding position, which is used to protect a runway, an obstacle limitation surface or the ILS/MLS critical sensitive area, and at which all taxiing aircraft and vehicles are required to stop unless authorized by Aerodrome Control Tower. Now we'll be talking about the runway turn pad. As the name suggests, this is an area adjacent to the runway and it is used to complete a 180-degree turn of an aircraft. Next is a runway visual range. It is a range over which the pilot of an aircraft on the central line of the runway can see the runway surface markings, the light delineating the runway or the runway center line. Now a very important term, that is segregated parallel operations. It is simultaneous operation on parallel or near parallel runway in which one runway is exclusively used for takeoff only and the other runway is used for landing only. Now we will be talking about shoulders. These are the areas that are present adjacent to a pavement that provide a transition between the pavement and the adjacent surface. Switch over time. It is the time during which the actual intensity of light in a given direction falls from 50% and recovers to 50% during a power supply switchover when the light is being operated at an intensity of more than 25%. Now we'll be talking about taxiways. These are the defined area on land aerodrome that are used to provide a link from different parts of the aerodrome. And these include the aircraft stand taxi lane, which are a part of the apron and are used to provide links to aircraft stands. Apron taxiway. These are the taxiways located on the apron and they provide a thorough route through the apron. Rapid exit taxiway. These are the taxiways that are located at an acute angle to the runway so as to provide the landing aircraft to exit the runway at greater speeds than that allowed by exit taxiway. So because the aircraft is exiting the runway at greater speeds, these rapid exit taxiways help in reducing the runway occupancy times. The junction of two or more taxiways is called the taxiway intersection. Usability factor. It is the percentage of times during which a runway or a system of runways at an aerodrome is not restricted due to the crosswind components. What are crosswind components? These are the surface wind components that are at right angles to the extended runway center line. Now we will be talking about the aerodrome reference code, which has two elements. Code element 1, which is a number and designates the aeroplane reference field length. It is divided into 4 categories, that is code 1, code 2, code 3, code 4. And the code element 2 is the wingspan, which is code letter ranging from A to F. Hope I could help you out with the difficult terminologies related to ICAO NX14. If you like our work, do like, share and subscribe because your support is our motivation.
Okay.